Hello, everybody. Okay, this is called Ready for Some Plums. Too much electrical current tapped at the same time, and we might throw Earth out of orbit, said Edison, and plummet into the sun. The feather-winged sun, plummeting to the ground, discovered wax and flight were undone by solar heat, a lesson to take to heart, which, should it waver, can be zapped by electrical current to restart. If you are close to a particular device when needed, or wanted badly, the doctor pointed out, who tasted a plum, saved by someone else, which could have stayed in the fridge, its coils cooling the sweet bite with electricity and self-control. This is a serious poem. History of Christian dinosaurs. They so loved the creatures that they imagined them reborn, cloned from DNA caught in amber. And so great was their love that they painted the Garden of Eden as the place where, among the great abundance of growing things, Adam and Eve hung out in trees with a couple of dinosaur breeds, who, luckily, were herbivores. Verily, I say unto you, the beasts of the earth were made of clay, the rib bone honed into our mother, and where the brain was meant to be, their Savior gave them putty. Putty? Okay. So, you think I'm making this up? Show and tell. This is from a book about Adam and Eve and the dinosaurs. Okay. And I hope I haven't offended anyone.
Probably in the Kansas school curriculum.
Also, there's a theme park.
Well, now we go on to trying to do some poems, on the theme, which at this time with cold medicine running through my brain, I can't quite remember what it is, but this is called The Artifact Remains. I have to mention that I have a friend who late in her life became an actual Egyptologist and went on digs in Petra and in Egypt. And her name is Dr. Diane Cavalieri, and there's this little bit at the beginning that she wrote on her. Oh, she's also an artist. In fact, she started out as an art student at Buff State. Despite its faded and tattered condition, the Met's Egyptian collar had always appealed to me as a reminder of the human side of an exalted ancient culture, generally perceived to have valued the permanent rather than the ephemeral. With my first fava bean collar, I was trying to capture the essence of that fragile human artifact. So it's called The Artifact Returns. Brushing off grains of time to reveal that what she held in her hand had been formed by hands under the shadow of the Sphinx. She cataloged the past. She returned home with sand undulating in her breath, drilled small holes in dried fava beans, cascading the layers, twisting the linen thread, channeling the desert heat into a circlet, reminiscent of the necklace of desiccated petals from Tutankhamun's funeral banquet, preserved in a glass case in the Hall of Kings. She scoops up stars from Pharaoh's sky, ties intricate knots, binding discs with memories, from the dusty tomb where the Ka might awaken from the long sleep, adornments for use in the afterlife, adornments now art, given life centuries after, summoning the Egyptian queen whose long neck provoked the jealousy of swans. I wrote that probably a year ago or so. I just wrote this more recently when this artifact was uncovered in Egypt. And it is of, strangely enough, the granddaughter of the pharaoh who was Tutankhamun's grandfather. No, the daughter of the pharaoh. Anyway, so they found this little carved statue of her in a Goliath of her father. They'd never found this before. And her name was like the Egyptian goddess Isis, but sometimes called Iset. And that's the name of this poem, Iset. The winds have scrubbed my face off, though my name is inscribed above my alabaster soles. I was found nestled between the feet of my father, the king, in his temple. I played in the courtyard and raced with the stable boys. The sun stroked my cheek. Father said I would join him in the afterlife, where the dunes unfurl and clasp us again. But no one knows me anymore. I was a princess, once flesh and favorite, now small, white, faceless. Show and tell again. Poor Iset without her face. It's called Trinity, and it's based on another statue then from unknown histories of matriarchal lineages and goddesses. It's called Trinity. She is the virgin, the mother, the crone, dressed in a shirt of rainbows, a skirt of bones. Jaguar claws extend where fingernails would wear pretty polish. She is the pale one, the moon maiden, the healer, the keeper of stories. For 3 days she goes dark, suffering torment, but then returns again and again, fully radiant, lighting our path. Long before the Hebrew boy trekked across the desert or wore the wood device of his own death on his back, long before Ik shall Mayan Aurora clasped her arms around the hair of spring. Show and tell. Can you tell I used to be an art teacher? Last show and tell, not last poem though. In the presence of the divine. I saw this, a picture of this, this banner, which has a poem on it by Ram Tirtha. And this may look familiar to some of you of a certain age. You will see it in the pages of Be Here Now by Ram Dass. The butterfly. Everything's moving on me. And this is the poem by him. I am without form, without limit, beyond space, beyond time. I am in everything. Everything is me. I am the bliss of the universe. Everything am I. And this is my poem. In the presence of the divine. The butterfly beat its gossamer wings. Thrown together by chance for this meditation exercise, we looked deeply into each other's eyes, two strangers seeking the light. Looked deeply into each other's eyes to locate the center of the sublime in each other. Looked deeply into each other's eyes, heat rising from our groins. Both of us young in our prime, both of us seeking, listening, now settled on the floor in front of Baba Ram Dass. Looked deeply into each other's eyes, listening to that resonant voice lead us small steps to the summit, or was it the cave, of inner peace. Looked deeply into each other's eyes. The sun shines through your soul. The moon is my mother. Looked deeply into each other's eyes and giggled. And then giggled for the giggling until Ram Dass said, that's okay. Sometimes we giggle because we're embarrassed. Looked deeply into each other's eyes. Giggling could not stop. The laughter welling up, consuming us. The butterfly beat its wings, flew off towards a ray of light. It seems like every day there's another poet laureate of some town or county, or so it's inspired this. And this is probably, my time is probably up now. I have no idea. If it isn't, I have one more poem. Otherwise, this is.
No, you're good. Finish up.
This it?
Finish up.
Or after this?
For 10 minutes.
Oh, only 10 minutes. Oh. The poet laureate of nowhere resumes post. The poet laureate of only one room neatens her desk. The poet laureate of fountain pens and onion skin paper inscribes her past and mails it to Paris, 1924. The poet laureate of today at 4 p.m. clocks her brain with the collected works. The poet laureate of small ideas steps up to the podium of the circus of language, snaps her whip. The poet laureate of the back room unlocks the door and steps through to the front counter. The poet laureate of Atlantis breathes in the diction of mermaids and spills some crustacean secrets. The poet laureate of Earth colony Mars touches the waters of oblivion and writes the final lines of the history of longing. And one last poem. Oh, should I stop? One more? Stop? No. One more. Oh, you liked it. You liked the poem. Oh. I'm a foolish girl. This is a poem that Helen Ruggieri mentioned that she liked of mine. I wrote it a long time ago. She liked another poem of mine here in my book that I also wrote a long time ago, which leads me to believe that maybe I wrote better when I was younger, but Candlelight and Canvas. This thing keeps moving down.
It will, if you leave it.
All right.
No way to lock it.
Candlelight and Canvas. Sitting very still in a small urban art gallery, a candle lit to inspire the muse, to kindle an image that will burst into poem. One student stares at burning words while flame light frames her face, transforms her into a living vermeer, her pale skin glowing with its own flame. Like a young woman of medieval Holland, face lit by a single candle, who sits by a narrow window open to the sea, gazing into eternity down a corridor of time. Centuries later, the Dutch girl waits in the dark halls of an Amsterdam museum, its walls dappled with the present and the past. Burghers counting gold, peasants tilling fields, and wives with sea-glazed eyes waiting for sailors or kings. Walking down these hallways, discerning light and breath. Some paintings speak to you while others are mute. A landscape whispers seductively. A portrait shouts in an ancient tongue you somehow understand. The labyrinth of time opens up, transports you to the living moment, the moist soil, the salt-scented air, the rustle of heavy black cloaks, her aching arms, her angst, abandonment. Oh, Lord, will he never return from Africa? The sun bursts through the clouds, and it is all here. The golden aura, the essence, held fast within gilt frames. Thank you.